I didn't read the whole thing yet. I only read like the top parts, and I saw that the Discord channel was like, OMG, blowing up with like, blowing up with activity and all this other stuff. So I'm going to read this announcement about conduits semi-live. I already read this part, but I haven't read the rest yet. And then I'm going to react to it, and it's pretty much mostly good news, I think. And we're going to just kind of go from there. So let's start reading, folks. Let's do this. Starting next week, in the Shadowlands Beta, we will begin introducing a series of updates to the Soulbind system to add a persistent collection system for conduits. Since the Soulbind system was unveiled in the alpha and discussed in our developer update, we've heard consistent feedback about the shortcomings of an inventory-based destructible version of conduits, and we agree entirely. Yes. While we feel it's important that there be some friction in moving conduits around, the prospect of the having to re-earn a given conduit, perhaps by chasing a specific dungeon or a raid boss drop, was not particularly appealing to anyone. However, simply removing destructibility without making other changes would have created an inventory management nightmare, especially for players who enjoy playing multiple specializations. Once this new system is in place, conduits will work like this. Conduits will continue to be items that can be earned from a wide variety of endgame content like dungeons, PvP, raids, reputations, world quests, and of course, etc. The power of their effects will increase with the item level of the conduit. Instead of placing a conduit directly into a given soulbind tree, you'll bring it back to your sanctum, where you can add it to a permanent collection. There will be more than one source for most conduits to increase flexibility in acquisition and accessibility across different playstyles. Earning a more powerful version of a conduit you already have will simply upgrade that conduit in your collection. At its core, the Soulbind system aims to give you the freedom to essentially build your own talent tree for yourself. Each Soulbind offers a range of fixed universal traits closely themed to that Soulbind's nature, and there are many open slots throughout the tree that effectively serve as wildcards, allowing you to insert conduits to customize each Soulbind to suit your playstyle and preferences. A given conduit can only be used once per Soulbind, though the same conduit can be added into different Soulbind's trees without restriction. This does not require earning more than one copy of the conduit. Once it's in your collection, you can place it as you wish. If you want to rebuild your soulbind trees, once per week, you'll be able to clear all of their conduits with a separate cooldown per soulbind. But once you've decided on your desired conduit placements, we want to ensure that the system offers as much flexibility as other existing talent systems, so you'll be able to switch which soulbind is active or redirect the flow of anima through a soulbind's tree, essentially respecting them. Okay. Anytime you visit your sanctum, and if you have a different soulbind per spec, or a different active trait path with a given soulbind, that will be saved on a per specialization basis, and will automatically change whenever and wherever you change specializations. We're hoping to have an initial version of this system active in next week's beta, so not this week, with further updates and a polished user interface in the weeks to follow. As always, thank you for your feedback. We're looking forward to seeing yada yada yada, something make Shadowlands better, whatever. You're welcome. I did it. I'm just kidding. No, we did it. So, obviously, thanks to a lot of reasonable feedback. I've given it many of everybody have given plenty of feedback on this. That the whole destructibility thing wasn't great. We had different kinds of conversations on how best to solve that, and it looks like Blizzard took like some of the best of that stuff, such as pretty much making it like kind of a glyph system, but something that it's a little weird. I'm gonna try to find some of the highlighted stuff. Well, I'm not gonna highlight. I think I remember most of it. So from the sounds of it, so if we want to respec our conduits, as in like take this tree and reset it, like we will be able to redirect the flow or otherwise make the different choices as long as we just go back to our Covenant Sanctum. But as for resetting the conduits, basically, killing off all the conduits and resetting, whatever, we can only do that once a week, with a separate cooldown. So it doesn't sound like it's something that resets every Tuesday or Wednesday in the EU. It's something separate, you know, you do it and then you incur that sort of like long cooldown. Let's see, what are some other highlights? This one I like a lot. There will be more than one source for most conduits. So I'm just gonna kind of throw out some guesses and say that perhaps like the basic conduits basic conduits, those will just have one source and you get it from a quest or a quest line or something like that. But when it comes to higher level stuff, I'm going to presume that some of these more epic conduits that we're seeing, you might see one from raids, but you'll also be able to maybe get it from high-end PvP, and maybe there might be a third source. You might be able to get one from like each sort of thing, each sort of gameplay mode. Another highlight is this whole thing about not earning a more thing. Here we go. The power of their effects will increase with the item level of the conduit. So the whole thing about ranks, it wasn't what we think. This is more like a semi back-end system. So think of it like this. There are 15 ranks of these conduits, supposedly. There are typically 3 tiers or 3 seasons, something like that, right? Sort of. in a given expansion. So just think of like season 1 as, okay, we're going to get like 5 ranks worth of these conduits. It's going to be something like that. So this whole thing about ranks, as far as it looks, it's either going to be, we're either going to see 15 of these different kind of ranks in a season, and then the next season we're going to see like 15 more ranks, and then later we're going to see 15 more ranks. I'm kind of thinking to myself, though, it's just going to be based on how many different item level brackets that there are. So it's not going to be like 15 different, it's not going to be separations of like 5 item level. It might be separations of like 15 item level or something like that. So if anything, it's going to feel fairly passive. However, the whole idea of having to refarm content that's harder in order to get like the better conduits and stuff, that part can feel like slightly frustrating, although it really depends on just how many different conduits there are going to be. Are they going to expand on the conduit list? Because it's going to make me wonder, okay, am I going to see upgraded conduits in new content, or do I need to farm instead of like a Mythic 5, I need to farm like a Mythic 15 in order to get the new conduit or something like that, or is it just going to scale up with it? I think that's where you're going to find a little bit of a mess, a little bit of friction when it comes to, some players are like, oh yeah, cool, I'll be able to get these conduits, great, because I'm a Mythic player. Meanwhile, other players at my level or lower will be like, well, shoot, we only do like normal mode raiding, so our conduits are only going to be so good. However, the conduits themselves, they do offer some pretty nasty and cool effects. Their game-breaking ability is a little bit arguable. I mean, like some conduits come to mind. I'm sure that you folks at home and elsewhere can think of conduits that can be extremely powerful at higher ranks, whereas other conduits, they don't really scale like nearly as well. So the matter of how that's balanced, that's all numbers, so they can change that whenever the hell they feel like. Maybe another thought that's come to mind just now is that maybe the ranks aren't going to be so dependent on your difficulty. Maybe a certain rank is earned from a raid. No matter what the difficulty is, you get this kind of conduit per raid. And then in the next tier or whatever, you get like a different one. I don't know. There could be many ways that this could go about. The whole thing about ranks, it might get watered down into something totally different, where we just might see like rank 1, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, depending on the season that you picked it up in. It's just a matter of when. When do those upgrades occur? Am I going to get a conduit upgrade because I'm moving up from normal to heroic to mythic, and I get a certain source there? Or is it when I move from season 1 to season 2, I happen to kill a boss that drops that conduit upgrade? Cool, I get this new rank. Is it going to work like that? Don't know. That's totally up for discussion, and we'll have to see. The data mining might give us like some indicators of this. It's already giving us an indicator of these ranks, but we're definitely going to have to see how things look next week when this first comes in, and we might see like an entire revamp of how those conduits work under the hood. So how do I feel about this? I guess I should just get to that. How do I feel about this? Conduits are going to feel passive, except for the part of going back to your clubhouse and installing these conduits in your thingamajigger into these dudes' backs, however you want to work it. It's gonna feel passive. Once we start earning these conduits, it's just gonna be like, cool, I killed a boss thing and now I'm getting something out of it, and that's great. And that seems to be about it. It does seem like a pretty passive system, except in the case of, oh my god, I really want this particular conduit. I only do this kind of content, and now I don't get access to it. So there are going to be like continued challenges, maybe, to get us into content that's, like I said, outside of our comfort zone, outside of our box. How much friction is going to be there? Hopefully it's not like Blood of the Enemy or Conflict and Strife levels of friction, where you're like really hard grinding a thing that you're not fond of doing. It's just a matter of, did it drop? And I think that's kind of the most important thing here, is that you're not going to be like grinding so you can get some sort of achievement, and then that way you'll be eligible to get this new conduit. You simply just get it. But there are going to be different sources, PvP, reputations, world quests, and so on and so forth. But again, how much overlap is there going to be? I think that's going to be like super important. Earning a more powerful version of a conduit you already have will simply upgrade that conduit in your collection. From what Blizzard had said earlier too, just in case you guys weren't sure, conduits are going to be on a separate loot table. So like if you just happen to get it, you get it. It's not like, oh, I really wanted this weapon and I got something, but it just happened to be a conduit instead. It's going to be on a separate roll. So you might get, oh, I got the weapon and I got the conduit. Boo-boo, score. So it's going to be more that situation. That is a good question. Are the conduits going to be like a bind on account thing, or is it something that we're going to have to like earn and re-earn and other such things? They didn't say anything about it being account wide, and we're gonna have a conversation about that, aren't we? Yeah, we are. I'm of the mindset of get it your darn self. I'm a fan of having fewer account bound systems when it comes to power. When it comes to like cosmetics, whatever. But in this case, it's power, and the way I see it, or this is just my opinion, all right, folks. But in my opinion, the idea of account bound power like that, not so great. In this case though, because you're seeing so many different sources of getting these things, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we'll just be able to get semi-naturally without so much hard farming. But I get it. There's going to be friction. People are going to complain because conduits are adding equipment slots. It's more equipment slots, more stuff to farm for. Thankfully, we only need to get it once, but there's still going to be that nagging feeling for sure. Yeah, I guess I'm not fond of having it account bound because it's a bit too cheaty. Take 8.3.5 or whatever, for example. They didn't exactly make essences account wide. What they did is make accessibility much more flexible as soon as you unlocked it the first time. In this case, it's different. With conduits, there's simply going to be all sorts of different sources, and it's not going to be nearly as farmy or restrictive as it will be for essences, at least on paper. It remains to be seen. But that's pretty much going to be it for me. I think I've ranted on this like enough times and talked in enough circles. But what do you folks think? Are you happy with these changes? What other questions do you have that I missed? And I know that there are plenty of those. So leave those in the comment below. So that way we can get more feedback going, and we can, continue to badger Blizzard with all this feedback, so that way they can do pivots and changes as we go. So by the time Conduits and Shadowlands goes live, it'll be something that just about everyone can enjoy. So again, please leave a comment below, like the video if you enjoyed yourself, and otherwise I'll see you guys for the next thing that I do. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. We'll see you guys later. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy. Ba 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 ba.